Welcome to the Northern Affinity video podcast. During this session, we will be having an unedited discussion with an expert. And what I'll be planning to do is, during our discussion, get them to teach me something. Teach me about something that's of interest, but also they are an expert in. I'm Michael Edwards and I'm the founder of the Northern Affinity. And I will tap into our wonderful community to bring you along on my drive for self-improvement and my desire to learn. So please connect with me on various social media platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter. And I'd love to hear from you what subjects you'd like to learn more about, or what subjects you think it'd be good for me to learn about. So please, get in contact and let me know. All the details will be in the show notes, and you can send me an email or contact me via the various platforms. I really hope you enjoy the show. So welcome to the latest episode of the Northern Affinity podcast. I'm delighted that Terri's here joining us. So welcome, Terri.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Yeah, great. Thank you for coming on. And for people who are watching this or people who have seen the show notes, today we're going to talk about recruiting in a candidate-led market. But before we do that, Terri, I'd like to tell everyone a little bit about you. So do you want to kind of do that? Just tell us who you are and who you work for, and we'll go from there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Terri Ward and I work for Juice Personnel. We're a small independent based in Wakefield, but by small, we are not small really. We've been going for 20 years now, celebrated its 20-year anniversary this year. We have a logistics side and a commercial side of the business. So my role here is within the commercial side, and my role is social media and recruitment manager. So I've been here for 2 years now. So very much stuck in the company now, hopefully for life.
So in terms of what you do then, obviously, I know you mentioned there social media. You want to tell us a little bit more about that, kind of what your day-to-day looks like?
So I'm really creative. So I absolutely love making like the job adverts. I like doing the videos. A lot of my colleagues are really into doing that. So I basically go on to, platforms such as Instagram, TikTok recently as well. LinkedIn is massive, Facebook, and I put all the content together. So I'm like the face, I guess, of Juice in that sense, because I get everything across what I'm trying to get across to everybody, like the audience that we're trying to, achieve and reach. So yeah, I'll basically make videos, I'll edit them, make them look interesting. And I think because people these days, especially since the pandemic, are very visual, and we've done a lot online, social media has really blown up in the last few years, I'd say so. So that's my day-to-day in regards to the social media side. Definitely hands-on with that.
Excellent, Terri. Thank you. Well, hopefully this video will see going out on your social media activity as well.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I'm sure it'll be fine. So I guess moving on to the kind of the subject we're touching on today.
Yeah,
I always think it's important to kind of frame the conversation. So we talk about a candidate-led market. Mm-hmm. So what do we mean by that? What does that mean in practice, I guess?
Absolutely, yeah. So two things to my job really is your client versus your candidate. So your client is somebody that's basically looking for a new employee for their business, and candidate-led in the sense of it all is very much candidates are asking for a lot more now than probably what they've ever asked for before. They've got that confidence to, ask for higher salaries, hybrid working, work from home, benefits packages that companies probably haven't thought about pre-COVID. And it's really taken a dramatic turn. So my job has essentially changed a lot since before. So it was very client-led before. People could wait a lot longer. And now because it's so quick and the economy is picking back up again and people are wanting to, employ people, get the roles going out again, they're finding it incredibly difficult because all the good candidates are pretty much either taken or they have so much choice to pick from that clients are really struggling. So that's what we mean by candidate-led market. It's very much on their terms at the moment.
Yeah, and I guess that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, we all know what kind of the impact of the pandemic and work-life balance and all that kind of stuff. And do you think then this is kind of going to be how it's going to be for the long term, or is it one of those things that in your world it kind of flicks between. It's a bit like an economy, it's up and down, and for a few years we're candidate led, then we're client led, and it goes from there. How do you think that'll kind of play out in the kind of medium to longer term?
I think at the moment, I think it's definitely in candidates' favour. And I think it's great for people that have never had the confidence before to ask for things that they were scared of asking for before. I know a lot of clients were very hesitant to let people work from home originally, but then the results have spoken for themselves. A lot of people have that time management better now, where they do actually spend more time with the family more than work, but they're still getting the quality of work out there. So I'd say in answer to your question, I mean, this was way before my time working recruitment, but as of the recession, obviously that people really remember, there were a massive change there. And now, again, we're adapting to the changes that need to be made to make business still work. So I reckon that there'll probably be more changes in the future. We never know what's around the corner. We've just got to adapt as humans to what is going to happen next. And because I absolutely love change, and a lot of people don't, I'm very good at adapting to that quite quickly. So if I see, like the social media aspect, like I said before, if I see that there's going to be something coming in the pipeline, it's prevention before the cure, isn't it? You've got to kind of roll with it to see how that's going to affect your business, but then not only your business, but also your clients, the reputation, and so forth, because it affects all of us within the local community, really. And our stance here is that, our MD, Kelly, she is very much on reputation is everything. So we want to make sure that no matter what a client's asking for and what a candidate's asking for, that we can kind of put them two together and make them fit and gel. Because, I think we've had to educate people like clients on, instead of asking people that have got, 10 skill sets that they might not already have, why not look at it from a culture perspective and train that person on how to do a certain job? And that's how we're working now to try and blend the two together. And it is difficult, I'm not going to lie. It's a very challenging situation that we're in. However, there is ways in which we can help clients to bridge that gap and teach them essentially on how to recruit a little bit different now to probably what they've been used to.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I've just thought about have you noticed any kind of difference between maybe smaller businesses and bigger businesses? And the way I'm kind of in my mind is there's kind of advantages and disadvantages to both, but often smaller businesses can be a bit more agile and they can change things quicker than bigger businesses, and a bit more flexibility in terms of, if we're going to bring someone in and they require this thing or whatever that is, it's quite easy for someone to say yes or no, where in bigger businesses they'll have kind of things in place and bandings and all this type of thing. I'm sure that many people have kind of experienced, and it's a bit more difficult. Have you seen any of that in the market? Or is there been a shift where people are maybe going towards working for small businesses more?
Yeah, I was one of them, 100%. So when I started, my background is finance. So I'd worked pretty well in finance, worked myself up from personal banking, and I'd worked my way up to like a compliance-based role in auditing. Now, it wasn't me. So before the pandemic actually happened, I actually went to a larger firm within recruitment, a more, corporate company. And I definitely felt the difference from coming from a larger base scale nationwide company to a small independent. I was pretty nervous. I've never done anything like that before. So I didn't know whether it was a big risk, but it's a risk that's paid off. And I think that, you've got to go with your gut feel sometimes, because I'm heard more now. Whereas when I worked for a bigger corporate, I don't feel like my voice was heard as much and getting out there, because there's a lot of processes you've got to follow to get to the top of the chain, like CEOs and everything like that. You've got to really implement something, and sometimes you're not heard. You're just at the bottom of the line, as to say. Yep. But I definitely feel like from experience, people are definitely open now to different avenues. I definitely think the hospitality industry, gosh, it was shocking. And also flight companies. I mean, my partner, he works for a large flight company, and he was furloughed for a good year. So I'm finding now a lot of people have even changed their career completely to fit in with the society that we need to fit in with, because obviously when hospitality had closed, restaurants, etc., they needed to find a new job because they still had bills to pay. So, that's probably something that I've really, really enjoyed doing, is to help people find their skill set, but also adapt in a different environment. And clients have been really open to that. I mean, a lot of people I've worked with, they're quite open to trying new things now. At the first they weren't, it's taken a good couple of years to get into the mindset of it. But it's like, well, actually that hasn't worked, so shall we try this? And we get really good feedback from like, oh, Terri, we didn't think that were going to work, but actually you were right. And I'm like, it's because we see it every day. We see trends in the market. I mean, we do this daily. You don't do this daily. So we understand that you're so focused on your own job. But I think a lot of people have come from a client perspective. They're so busy and they just need that extra helping hand because they're doing 10 different jobs a day. Yeah. They don't think about having that extra person to delegate things off to. It'll actually really ease them up to see the bigger picture. So yeah, in hindsight, it's interesting because people are more open, I think, now to have them conversations and let you work from home, possibly if your job allows you to do that, because you're still more capable of doing it, probably get more done.
Yeah, kind of like from someone like myself, kind of on the outside of what you do, my kind of gut feeling would be that a candidate-led market is actually a real big opportunity for small businesses because they, like I said, like kind of hinting at the question, really, they can be flexible and almost build a job around a person if they want the right person, rather than I've worked for big corporate businesses and you kind of have these bandings, you've got these things in your job description, there's certain things, and that's it. There's no flexibility in that, which sometimes is fine, and that it's not a negative. It's just kind of the way it is. But for a small business, you get a good candidate, and you just if that person wants to work or needs to work 3.5 days a week, but will do 10 hours one day, and their strengths are this and that, let's use that and let's play to that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this job title of mine now has come from nowhere. I didn't know a couple of years ago when I first started here that I were going to be, running ahead with social media, because it wasn't on the vision. It wasn't in the goals at all. And I think, I've had to even influence my own managers to be like, we need to think outside the box. We need to be really pushing things forward, because if we don't, we're going to be behind. And no one wants to be behind with things, And I think it's really nice. So what I say at the moment, how to recruit, is if you like somebody and you start a process with your recruiter, and a lot of people come to agencies, usually because they can't find what they're looking for. Is generally what we get, when people call us from Google or, wherever they find us. Terri, I'm really struggling. Can you help me? Okay, have you explored other avenues? And they'll tell me a full list of what they've tried. And it's basically saying to them, okay, let's break it down, because if you're interviewing somebody and you're doing a 2-stage interview, 3-stage interview, whatever you want to do, for a not so senior role, talking about, like your middle of, or like like your starting jobs, like your admin and like before you get to like a senior level, basically you need to not have like 2-3 stages. You don't need that anymore. Whereas in the past, it was a big thing to do that. Let's go and meet this person. Let's go and meet that person. But we don't have time anymore. You've got to really think they're going to be out having another 3 interviews and they're going to get snapped up. And then you're going to be like, oh, got to start the process again. And that costs time and money. However, when you use an agency like us, you don't pay for a single thing unless you employ somebody in that, in that role. And you've already probably spent a lot of money yourself as a company trying to invest in finding somebody, but you're already tied up with everything else you've got to do. So that's why I always try and say, from our perspective, and obviously one of our top selling points is we take away that pressure, because that's our job, and we can, push it forward to help. But it's definitely like time is of the essence now, Mike. And it's like, if you like somebody, snap them up. If you don't want them, tell us straight away. Don't long out the process longer than you have to.
No, and that leads me actually on to my next thing I was want to chat about was about, they say I wanted to employ someone. I was deciding, right, I need this role filling, whatever that role may be. I'd say to you, Terri, what things are people looking for? Because, and I think, I'm sure everyone who listens or watches this at some point has applied for a job. Mm-hmm. And when you see benefits, it's nearly always, the standard things: X number of days, holidays, including bank holidays, this salary. And it depends on the role. It might be a company car or whatever the role is. Obviously, it can be different, but it's kind of very generic. And my feeling again from the outside is what people want from a role now has changed. And you kind of touched on it earlier since COVID. It was happening anyway, but COVID's probably accelerated the change. So, if I was saying, like, right, I want someone from this role, what type of things are people looking for? What will attract them? So that giving me a better chance of finding a good candidate.
Absolutely. So first one, flexibility. How flexible can you be? If you open up that and you understand that people have families and they want to see them families more these days than working 60-hour weeks, then that'll be your first one. Is the either working from home hybrid situation, if it can be done. Not all businesses can do that, if it's a manufacturing company, you can't do it. But if it's an office based, definitely flexibility. Your next one would be what do you like about working at your company? And I know that you're like, obviously, the founder of your role. However, if you were going into a company, like I tell a lot of my candidates to say, well, what do you enjoy about working here? Because that gets a good understanding of why they get up in the morning to actually go into work and what they feel the benefits are. We get a lot of people asking at the moment as well, like it shouldn't be a big thing, but it is. The national minimum wage has just gone up by nearly £1. It still ain't good enough. A lot of people are struggling off that. And a lot of people have put on their job adverts, competitive salary. What does that mean? What are you competing against? People don't, it's one of my big bugbears. And I think that you need to be really transparent in what you're actually offering and what your budgets are for that year and what you can afford to pay out for a new colleague, because people need more money these days. We all know that things have gone up. We're not blind. We can see it every day. And people need to be really rewarded for their hard work that they're doing. Because if they are a really good employee, you don't want to lose them just for the sake of a couple of £1,000 when you can probably budget in somewhere, because they're probably going to save you money in the long run. They're your probably top two. Other than that, people love free parking. I think free parking's always been a top sell. And then all your other bits like private healthcare, how big's your pension? Yeah, holidays is a big thing. A lot of people still do your standard, 20 days plus your 8 bank holidays. But if you can offer 25, 30 holidays, yeah, you're going to entice people in. And it's nice to see people wanting to do social days again. All that stopped, didn't it? We weren't allowed out of the house. So it's nice to see that companies are bringing that back in again. I get some clients that are going to do like summer fairs, or they do like a big Christmas ball, and, they're getting their culture back together to celebrate in their own success, but also making them good, strong foundations for good working businesses as well.
So you use the word culture there, and weirdly enough, that was my next question. How important that is, because I think, my experience of I haven't been in an employed role for a number of years now, is that businesses often talked about having a good culture, or a positive culture, or a fun culture, whatever they talk about. But it was rarely the reality, and you can feel that. Now, my impression is that, especially younger people actually now, that yes, obviously, how much they get paid and stuff like that is important, because obviously, as you quite rightly point out, things have gone up. But I get the impression that a lot of younger people now, the culture of a business is probably higher on the radar than it maybe was for me 15 years ago. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely, because when I've worked for companies like yourself that have said culture is amazing, culture is not great. But you only know that when you're obviously involved in it all. And I think it's a good PR stunt, to get people in. But as you get older, I mean, obviously, like you say there, when they're younger, I mean, I'm in my mid-30s now, so obviously I can say that I've had that past. But I don't think you actually recognise until you actually do move around your roles to realise what actually good culture means to you, because culture can mean anything. It can be so subjective. It can mean something different to you, something different to me. Depends what you want out of that. But what the essence really is making sure that all your colleagues have the similar sort of attributes or the similar sort of personalities that will actually get on. Because the last thing you want to do is employ somebody that's going to be really confrontational, very opinionated, very head-on, and then somebody who's really shy, really nervous, and going to be very upset about that kind of persona in their area. Yes. So you need to be very careful with that, and I think that is such a big thing. But again, it's the culture, isn't it? Because you want to create a good environment for people that actually want to get out of their own comfort zone and push themselves further. And culture to me personally means somebody that's willing to listen and somebody that's willing to put into you what you want to achieve out of yourself as your own personal career goals. and pushing you forward. Sometimes, pushing you out of your comfort zone, but doing it for the greater good, because it's going to develop you as a person as well.
Yeah, and I just wanted to go back to something you mentioned a minute or two ago, is about flexibility.
Yeah.
Again, that's something I've experienced. Businesses that maybe talk about flexibility, but what they define as flexibility is maybe different to my definition. And I get a feeling that we might be moving towards a world where, kind of the 9 to 5, should we say, traditional is almost gone, because we've all got lives, haven't we? We've all got things. And I'm sure it's still the case now. If I went onto a job board and searched for jobs, I would imagine that, I don't know, 95+% of them are, maybe not all 95, because obviously there's different types of roles, but are 35 to 40 hours a week, give or take.
Yeah.
I've always thought there was a massive opportunity for a business who maybe looked at more part-time options, and that part-time could be different in terms of, part-time to you and part-time to me might be different things, but to me there's a big market there for people who, for whatever reason, can't commit to working 35 to 40 hours a week, but 15, 20, 25, 30 could be doable for them, and they could be really highly skilled, really highly motivated, but there doesn't seem to be many roles around, especially in the kind of business to business service. You might get that in retail or in hospitality, but definitely not in kind of service led type. Does that make sense?
Definitely resonates. I think one thing that Juice did, I mean, it was before I started here, but I think our general office hours were 9 to 5. And then, Dolly Parton will have to write a new song, because it ain't going to be 9 to 5 anymore. Just got Dolly in my head. But no, she basically made a commercial business decision. I don't work 9 to 5 anymore. We work, hours where it's actually a shorter day. So we're still getting all the work in, but we actually work less hours now than probably what we did before, and condensed it. And it just brings me across to, the 4-day working week, that a lot of companies are actually adapting that at the moment. I don't know how that would work for me, because I love work. So I think I'd still work. So, but for people that definitely want to, condense that in, who's to say that you can't do it? You're actually probably more refreshed by doing it. I mean, the bank holidays that we're having, I mean, it's been great, hasn't it? Like nice longer week, you feel a bit more refreshed, a bit more recharged, and people are adapting that, and it's great, It'd be great in a world where people did more job shares for the part-time roles that you've mentioned, because you're right, people have families, people have children. Doesn't mean that they can't do a job. It just means that they've obviously got a family as well. And to be honest, a lot of single parents that I meet are phenomenal. Like how they manage their time, I don't know how they do it, because to work, to look after a child, and children are very demanding, and still fit in a social life. They are probably like superheroes that we are really dismissing as a society, because I don't have children yet, but I would definitely like to think that my company that I work for would definitely support me when I do, because I know that I can do my job really well, and it'd be nice to see other people adapting that approach.
Yeah, and I think the 4-day week is a really interesting concept. I think I like the kind of a lot of the thinking behind it, but I think it might solve some problems, but I don't think it actually solves all of them, because again, that isn't actual flexibility, because 4 days a week might not be what everyone needs. And I almost think it, like we like to do things like 4-day working weeks or whatever it is, just to, because it's a nice, easy thing for us to do. It's easy to put in place, where there's actually, why don't we just almost say to the candidate, right, here's the job, here's the position we need someone for. How many hours can you work? What's your setup? Can you work 3 days? Can you work 5 days? Can you work 4? Can you, do, I don't know, 2 long days, 2 half days? Well, whatever. Everyone's different. Life will throw at us.
Yeah.
Why don't we do more of that? But I don't think we do, because obviously it's a little bit complex, isn't it, to do that?
It's really complex to do it. I mean, by the sounds of it, Matt, you just want to work 1 day, don't you? And have another 7 days off or something. But no, I totally take on board what you're saying. Flexibility to different people means different things, and it depends on what that other person is doing and their own personal life. But again, it brings you back to how to teach in a candidate-led market, because how are we going to fit everybody's examples by just one job spec that literally is just a job spec that is going to be really difficult to fit? It doesn't, one size don't fit all, does it? as we're exploring here. And you're very right in what you're saying. Absolutely.
I'm wondering if we might get to a world where almost, but like as a business, let's say you're outsourcing something, your marketing as an example, and essentially you get businesses in to pitch to you, and they'd all pitch something slightly different, wouldn't they? They wouldn't all pitch for essentially the same role. They'd all say, well, we're going to do this, then this for you. I wonder if we might get to that type of world where individuals, candidates almost say, right, well, these are my skill sets. These are the things I want to do. These are the hours I want to work. Do you want to employ me type of thing?
I would love that.
I think we're quite a bit away from that, but I wonder if, I've not thought about it until we had this conversation, which is part of why I like having these conversations, but I wonder if we might go down that route. It might be somewhere we go.
It'd be exciting, wouldn't it? It's just walking to a company, here I am.
Yeah.
Do you want me? But do you remember a while ago, I think it was a guy in America that basically put his CV on a cereal box, made it look like a cereal box. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was great as well. Again, it's like some guy that were really struggling to get work, and he marketed himself so good that he then got loads of attraction. He got on TV and, wonder if somebody's employed him in their marketing department. But you're right, it's about getting your name out there. But again, it's that confidence, isn't it? And candidates are getting that now. They're definitely like, you know what? In pandemic, I really enjoyed actually doing all this at home. How can I make it fit now around my normal day-to-day routine? And to be honest, it's really inspiring from my perspective, because it's actually like, good for you. It's your life. And you're the one that has to go to work. If you're not enjoying work, I get people crying. Become a bit of an agony aunt here. Get people crying, you get people really annoyed, you're like, oh, they're not listening. And it's like, okay, so what do you really want? What is your dream role? And then that's when obviously then I can make them connections, make them conversations happen. And then when something comes up, if I don't have it at the time, because sometimes I don't have that kind of role, and it comes in, I'm like, oh my God, I remember speaking to this person 2 weeks ago. They'd be absolutely fantastic for this role. And then they're like, and then you get them conversations flowing. And I think the great part about, coming to your sessions as well and doing the co-working days is because you do get to meet that many different people that you will remember for certain things in the future. And I think it's great for this type of, especially from a recruitment marketing sort of perspective, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Terri. I mean, I guess my very final question is, if people want to find out a little bit more about you, connect with you, find out more about Juice, where's the best places to look and to go?
Absolutely. So you can have a look on LinkedIn, which is probably where I post most of my stuff every day. Name on there is Terri Ward. And then obviously Juice Personnel for the business page. Instagram handle is just Juice Personnel. TikTok is just Juice Personnel. All very much just the same standard name. So you can find us pretty easily.
Excellent. And as always, when I say on this podcast, I will put all the details in the show notes, like I said, whether it's on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. So it will all be there if you want to connect with Terri. So thank you. Really, thank you for that. It's a really fascinating discussion, and things popped into my head of where things are going that I hadn't thought about before, which is nice. So I just want to say thank you for coming on, and I'm sure lots of people got benefit from it.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this chat today, and like me, you learned something new from our wonderful expert. So if you'd like to hear from more of our sessions, please subscribe on whatever platform that you get your podcast from to hear more. And also, we'd love to meet you at some point at one of our upcoming events. The Northern Affinity hold events all across the north of England, and we'd love to meet new people and have guests along. So please come along and check out our website or all the details in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.